Welcome to Dump Truck Toolbox. I'm Alan. I'm sharing some video from a few months ago when I was working for my previous employer, driving one of my favorite trucks, a Mack Quint. If you're an owner-operator though, doesn't matter how much you love a truck, someday you're going to have to replace it. So dump trucks are tough vehicles. They take heavy loads on bad roads, including this dirt road that I was riding on. They're built with uh, strong frames, and they're designed to be repaired and rebuilt so that they can last a long time, give many years and many miles of service. However, at some point, financially, it becomes less and less wise to keep pouring money into an old truck. And the question we're going to think about today is, when does it make sense to repair a truck versus to go ahead and replace it? I'm going to be referring to this study, Major Equipment Life Cycle Cost Analysis, and it was research performed by Douglas Grantsburg at the Institute for Transportation at Iowa State University. And it was a study performed on vehicles operated by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. So the question is, when does it make sense to replace a truck rather than to repair it? And to think about this, we're going to use Grantsburg's um, uh, picture here of the equipment utilization annual cost. The annual cost consists of the capital cost, which for a brand new truck on the left side here starts off high because a new vehicle, whether it's a dump truck or your personal car, the moment you take delivery from the dealer, it starts falling in value. If you had to sell that truck, you wouldn't get back exactly what you paid for it new. And that fall off is the highest early on in the life of the vehicle. And then as time goes by, the depreciation, the fall in value becomes less year by year, and eventually it ends up at a pretty low level. The other factor that has to be considered in the cost of a piece of equipment is the operations and maintenance cost. And for a brand new vehicle, it starts off low, and then as time goes on and the vehicle gets more wear and tear on it, you're going to have higher operations cost in terms of fuel or other consumable goods. And you're also going to have higher maintenance costs. You're going to be repairing, replacing, and rebuilding things more often, and bigger ticket items are going to start hitting you later on. And so the total cost of the vehicle is these two curves added together. And this leads to that sort of a bowl in red where the cost of a vehicle is highest early in its life and late in its life. There are people who say, buy a new truck, hold it for as long as the warranty is from the manufacturer is good, so usually 5 years, and then as soon as the warranty runs out, sell it and buy another new truck. There's some logic for that. That minimizes your major maintenance cost. and it makes your maintenance budget much more predictable. But Grantsburg would say you're missing the sweet spot of the curve where your capital costs have fallen and your maintenance and operation costs haven't gone up yet. You're selling too soon. Okay. Now at the other end, you have people who say, I'd only buy a used truck, I'd fix it up, I'd keep repairing it, keep rebuilding whatever went wrong. And once again, there's some logic to that. Um, you're going to minimize the amount of money you have tied up in the truck. Uh, if there's a downturn in the economy, if your business runs into trouble, or if something happens to you personally, maybe you have a major illness or something else happens in your life, and your dump truck business isn't going to work out as well as you thought it would. Well, it's probably better to have a $50,000-$60,000 piece of equipment that you're not going to use as well, rather than have a $250,000 piece of equipment. So it makes some sense to buy an old truck and rebuild it and repair it as needed. But the point is, there your maintenance costs are gonna just be high and keep going up, and you're once again you're gonna miss the sweet spot of the minimal cost. In the middle is what Grantsburg called the optimal economic life. That is the minimum equipment utilization, uh, average annual cost over the life of the vehicle. And there's this year that we're going to call the year of minimum equipment cost, where if you hold the vehicle until that year, and then the next time you have a big repair cost, you don't repair it, you replace it. That's how you minimize the cost of your equipment. And for an owner operator or a fleet manager of dump trucks, that is how you maximize long-term profit. And so the question is, how do you find that year? And so one way that Grantsburg looked at doing this is to use the fancy term, the deterministic life cycle cost analysis, LCCA. And we're going to call this our straight line budget, where you have certain values that you just assume are going to stay the same over the course of the budget. Um, and so in making this replace or repair decision, Grantsburg and his team looked at a specific category of dump truck, a 2002 Sterling LT 9500 dump truck, uh, owned by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And apparently they had a number of these trucks, so you could actually get some pretty reliable statistics, apparently. And so to replace or repair using this straight line budgeting approach, Grantsburg concluded that you would replace this truck after 12 years. So if you bought it in 2002, right around 2014, you would say, okay, it's now in the replace category, and you wouldn't sell it right that moment on its 12th birthday. But the next time a major repair came up, you would say, no, we're not going to rebuild the transmission or rebuild the engine or anything else that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. We're going to go ahead and replace it. Okay, so the straight line budgeting forecast has value. It's similar to what I did in my video a few months back, comparing a newer Mack Quint to an older Kenworth Quad. And it's a great approach if that's the best you can do. And for me, currently, that is the best I can do. I'm pretty good with numbers, but really can't go beyond the straight line budgeting approach. However, we know that there are certain numbers that will change and change unpredictably over the course of the life of a vehicle. We're going to focus in on two in our video today. The first is fuel price. And so Grantsburg, looking at historical fuel prices, picked the value of $3.54 a gallon for diesel. And you know, that was a good value to put in. But this straight line budgeting approach, you have that $3.54 over the entire life of the vehicle. Well, anyone who's been in hauling for any notable period of time, but especially over the last few years, you've seen diesel prices go up and down and back up and back down and jumping all around. So to say, well, over the course of 12 years, the fuel price is going to be $3.54. We pretty much, I hope, agree that that's probably not the best assumption in the world. The other number that stands out to me and to Grantsburg, honestly, was interest rates. And because he was working with a state agency, they've got some specific state budgeting things that happen based on an interest rate that varies with the interest rates that you and I might pay. Um, but the values are a little different than we might see looking at interest rate on a truck loan. But it operates pretty much the same way in his budget, I believe. And so once again, they had an interest rate of 7.38%. And for this straight line budget, they just assumed that was going to be the interest rate over the entire life cycle of this Sterling dump truck. Once again, um, if you have lived and run a business over the last few years, you've seen interest rates which have been uh, for really decades low and stable. Well, they've started going up pretty dramatically. Um, uh, you know, around the housing crisis a while back, and then more recently um, with the economic stresses coming out of COVID, interest rates have gone up. And so to assume that interest rates are going to stay the same over the entire life of your truck, probably not a great assumption. And so the straight line budget may not work because of interest rates, because of changes in fuel prices, and many other things that could be changing in our budget. And so I don't think I want to bet on a straight line budget. Not if I'm making a, a decision about a dump truck, a piece of equipment that's going to potentially cost me a couple $100,000 or even more. And so Grantsburg has a very interesting and sophisticated approach to get to this year of minimum equipment cost. And I'm happy to discuss it in detail in the comments section. But basically, he looked at all of the factors that go into the budget of the life cycle of this truck, and he allowed them to vary following the variation in seen historically, but he allowed them to vary at random. And then, just like a casino, he allowed this random up and down of the different variables to happen, and he ran his simulated budget time after time after time after time, and what's called a Monte Carlo simulation after the casino, and he found these patterns of the year of minimum cost, and in terms of replace or repair, the sweet spot, the year of minimum cost, varied between 11 and 14 years for this 2002 Sterling dump truck. Replace when 11 to 14 years old, maybe that band is a little too wide for you. If you're going to be budgeting to replace a truck and you're going to budget to replace it in 14 years, you got a little more time. You got a little more breathing room to build up your money. If you're going to replace it in 11 years, you're going to have to be putting more money aside earlier to get ready to build the truck. So So what's the difference between 11 and 14 years? It is the two variables we've already talked about. It's interest rates and fuel cost. And so if their interest rates are high, then it would make sense to hold on the truck longer. So 14 years would make a lot of sense if uh, interest rates in general, and especially the interest rate on your truck loan would be relatively high. Hang on to it for another 2, 3 years. Then the other end of it would be if there are high diesel prices. You want to replace your truck closer to when it's 11 years old. If diesel prices are high, you want to take advantage of the new technology to get higher fuel efficiency. And once again, I've looked at fuel economy in a previous video, and the newer truck, and I know some people really don't like the new pollution controls and all the computer stuff and all, but the newer truck got substantially better fuel mileage. And if diesel prices are high and it's really impacting your business, you might want to pull the trigger a little earlier on that repair or replace decision. But once again, I want to emphasize, you're not going to just get rid of a truck that's running fine. You're going to wait until you have that big repair bill. You say, well, it's just not worth it. I'm going to go ahead and replace the truck. So I hope you found today's video interesting or useful, and if so, hit the like button. If you do disagree, happy to engage in a dialogue with you in the comments, and that helps other people think through these issues too. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. That helps other people find our channel. We've got a lot of people who've subscribed in the last month, and I appreciate all of you. It really is a privilege uh, to join with you, to think through these issues, and to see some cool trucks going down the road. And so I'm Alan, and check back in here. We're going to have some more stuff along these lines in the near future. So tune in soon to the Dump Truck Toolbox.